Today is Sunday, so that we can round up. Yes.
The recording is in progress.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And once again, I want to say a very big thank you to Barrister NF for hosting us today. And as I said earlier, today we're having the United Nations International Day, 2nd October, International Day of Non.
Oh, I apologize, Francis. I think I muted you. You have to unmute yourself. Ms. Chima, you have to unmute yourself, please.
Francisca, try to unmute yourself. Yes, all right.
Oh,
unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was muted. I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Andrew. Thank you so much for the recordings. Thank you for always hosting us. Okay, let's dive into what we have to do today immediately. You know, today is Sunday, and I'm sure we all have, you know, one or two things to do with our loved ones as regards Sunday being weekend. Okay, I also want to say thank you to Barrister NF for hosting this wonderful event today. So let's dive in straight. Today is the United Nations International Day of Non-Violence. And what is the theme of today? Securing a culture of peace, tolerance, understanding, and non-violence. So in a nutshell, what are we talking about? We're trying to see a way where we can actually drive this non-violence into every core of our lives, as in make it a lifestyle. And we can only say this, we can only make something like this a lifestyle when we really, really understand what it's all about, which is the essence of this doctrine. Because knowledge is power, they say, but applied knowledge, as we learned from yesterday's meeting, applied knowledge is what? Absolute power. So what we're trying to gain today is more insight into how we can make our communities a better place, how we can come together as one body to drive peace, and for it to reign, for it to just be a lifestyle. Can you reduce that for me? For it to be a lifestyle where nobody is being propelled. Nobody needs to be propelled to do the right thing of it. Nobody needs to be propelled to do the right thing. Automatically, you know, this is the right thing for me to do, and you follow suit. Okay, as well on this, I'm going to, let's see what we have next on ground. So I'm going to welcome the address by the host, Barrister Ene. Barrister Ene, I hope you are with us. The floor is open for you to
Yes, I'm here.
Please, can you take over? Let's get the welcome address from you. Thank you so much, everyone. I remain Chaplain Francis.
Okay, I want to welcome all of us everyone to this 2022 United Nations International Day of Non-Violence. The theme for this year's celebration and observation is securing a culture of peace, tolerance, understanding, and non-violence. My name is Sarah Nove. I'm the Director, International Center for Human Rights, Non-Violence, and Safety. From the title of from the name, you will know that this day is very important to us because it's at the heart of the work we do. International Center for Human Rights, Non-Violence, and Safety Awareness. You have three major thematics there, which is human rights, non-violence, and safety. So this United Nations Day of Non-Violence is very crucial to our work at the International Center for Human Rights, because we promote and protect human rights through non-violence means. We preach non-violence, we promulgate human rights, and we teach people on how to stay safe. So you'll be wondering, why do we choose non-violence when we're already promoting human rights? We found out that most times for you to push for your rights, you don't know how to go about it. Some people believe that it's when I become violent, that's when I can defend my rights. If I'm not violent, I cannot defend my right. The violence shall take it by force. But our core mission is to engage people, is to engage our community and tell them, no, you can promote your right by not necessarily pushing for violence. In this respect, there are other ways you can get your rights without necessarily resulting towards violence. Today is a day by the United Nations as International Day of Non-Violence. It's observed on the 2nd of October to mark the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, who is the leader of the Indian independence movement and pioneer of the philosophy and strategy of non-violence. So 2nd of October is Mahatma Gandhi's birthday, and he is a pioneer of the non-violent movement. You say, what does non-violence stand for? We have already discussed or talked about, or rather observed International Day of Peace. Why is non-violence different from International Day of Peace? We know what Mahatma Gandhi stood for. He pioneered the philosophy and strategy of non-violence to lead the Indians towards a bloodless independence. So today is set aside to observe his birthday, to celebrate his birthday, and to use the opportunity to do what disseminates the message of non-violence, including through education and public awareness. And that's what we are here to do, to engage relevant stakeholders in the promotion of peace and human rights, to take it down to our very homes, society, community, our country, that we can defend our rights by not necessarily resorting to violence. Violence takes different forms and shapes. So every day, the world is now besieged with one form of violence or the other, either gun violence, domestic violence, the one that we are used to hearing. But Mahatma Gandhi said poverty is even violence. So I believe the speakers we have today are going to do justice to this topic. I welcome you to the 2022 United Nations Day of Non-Violence. I believe that violence starts by someone promoting violence, and peace also starts by someone promoting peace. We are all stakeholders in the promotion of peace in our community. You cannot stand and you are promoting violence. You cannot make peace by force. So in the word of, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello? In the word of Martin Luther King, who is also a pioneer of nonviolence movement, he said, returning violence multiplies violence. Okay, I was trying to round up my speech by quoting the word of Martin Luther King Jr. He says, returning violence for violence multiplies violence. Adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So that word is very profound. We cannot promote peace by advocating for violence. So I believe that stakeholders that are gathered here, we have the responsibility of teaching ourselves, teaching our community how to tolerate each other, how to live peacefully with each other. Husband and wife must tolerate themselves. They must choose peace over violence. When we have peace in our community, when we chose not to promote violence, that means we're securing a culture. Let it become a lifestyle. Culture is the way of life of the people. So we should make non-violent strategy or movement as a lifestyle. It's a choice. If you want to be violent, you can choose to be violent. If you want to be peaceful, you can choose to be peaceful. A may look at a particular issue and choose violence over peace. And the peaceful person or a non-violent person would use other strategy, a principle of non-violence to promote peace. So I believe we now speakers in the house that will do justice to this topic. So once more, I welcome you to the 2022 International Day of Non-Violence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ene, for that wonderful speech. Thank you for reminding us of the works of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you so much. Okay, right now, let's move over to the introduction of the speakers. Okay, so the first speaker, we're going to be having Dr. Chidi Maduka. So, Dr. Chidi, you have the floor.
All right. Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead,
all right,
sir.
Can I welcome everybody? Good morning. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all from wherever you are watching across the globe. We want to welcome ourselves to this special occasion of the United Nations Day of Non-Violence. And we believe that it's something worthy of note, and it's a day worthy to be observed globally. Non-violence is a very important principle that the whole world needs to operate by. Incidentally, on a daily basis, we're looking for peace and non-violence almost in every step of our human endeavors. And I think it's something we all should promote on a very serious level, because the world is becoming more and more chaotic and quite violent. All right, I will go straight to my presentation this morning. For the next several minutes will be on the topic I've titled Achieving an Environment of Peace and Non-Violence. Achieving an environment of peace and non-violence. Let me just say by way of introduction that achieving peace and non-violence is something that we all must be committed to. It's something all of us from all walks of life must of necessity be committed to if we really want to have a peaceful world and all that. And I'm several of us have come in line with one of the most important ways of advocating for peace and non-violence, which is educational. And that is why some of us we are happy with what we are doing, being in the management industry, being in education, transmission, career. Because I strongly believe that one of the best ways of changing any system is by education, information, and giving people the knowledge that is needed. It might take a little bit of time, but it will sure make the difference. So education is key. Let me start by quickly defining the two key elements there, peace and non-violence. Somebody might ask the question, what is peace? What can we advocate or say peace is? Peace is simply a concept. By definition, peace is a concept of societal friendship and harmony. Friendship and harmony in which there is no hostility and violence. Again, I repeat that peace is a concept of societal friendship and harmony in which there is no hostility and violence. Again, peace It's also just a lack of conflict, such as war. Now, somebody might ask the question, is it possible to actually achieve an environment of total peace? Well, it is possible on one hand. It may also not be possible for at 100% level. But what we strongly believe is that the moment we can achieve a high level of peace in an environment, then we can say we have achieved peace there. Just like some of us who are also into conflict management, it is said that conflict is a normal aspect of life. As long as human beings come from different backgrounds, different orientations, different, what you might call training structures, there will always be conflict. As long as people are of different, temperament and all that, there will always be conflict. But what we are trying to advocate is how to douse the conflict situation in cities, in communities, in the nations, and bring them down to the barest minimum. And when we have that level of peace in any system, in any society, then we can say we have achieved a greater percentage of peace. So we're actually looking at how we can bring about greater dimension of peace for everybody. Now, what is nonviolence? Nonviolence simply means avoiding not only external physical violence, but also internal violence of the spirit. I want to break that down a little bit. Nonviolence means avoiding not only external physical violence, but also internal violence of the spirit. So two key things are very important there. Number one, nonviolence is one, being able to avoid external, physical violence, either man to man, man to the society, or man to, property around, or also internal violence, which is termed as violence of the spirit. In other words, an internal intrinsic level of violence, which a person might be having within. The essence is that when people have conflict within them, which is the violence of the spirit, internal, then of course that person cannot create non-violence externally. So non-violence is trying to achieve two dimensions of non-violence. The external one, which is between a person and the society, between person to person, between person to, properties and all that, not destroying them or not bringing about some physical violence on them. And then secondly, which is actually most importantly, a person achieving a greater portion of non-violence within himself or herself, which we call the non-violence of the spirit. And I want to quickly say that a lot of people need to first and foremost achieve that internal level of non-violence. In other words, be at peace with yourself, be at peace within you. Then it can translate on the surface. The truth of the matter is that where we see violence in the society, we see violence in several places across the globe. It's simply a reflection of what is happening within the spirit of a person. The moment somebody is not at peace with himself or herself, of course, that person cannot give what he or she does not have. And that is why we try to work on the mindset of people, the psyche of people, and their internal makeup for people to try and bring themselves to the level of being at peace or having non-violence within, first and foremost, then they can translate it to the outside. So that is where also some of us really come in trying to handle issues of emotional intelligence and all that, teaching people how to manage their emotions, manage their psyche, manage their, as it were, their temperaments. All right, let me quickly move into achieving the environment of peace and non-violence through education, because it's very, very important. Number one, the United Nations General Assembly declared the first decade of this 21st century, which was from 2001 to 2010, as an international decade for cultural peace and non-violence for the children of the world. And I'm sure several of us are very conversant with that. The first 10 years of this century, from the year 2001 to the year 2010, the United Nations declared it as International Decade for cultural peace and non-violence for children of the world. And I believe that the purpose of that was so that we begin to activate an atmosphere of peace, environment of peace, so that to make the world more a peaceful place for everybody, and especially for children. The reason being that children are the most vulnerable individuals, and they are most likely the victims of violence of all kinds. You all will agree that whenever there is violence anywhere in a society, in a country, globally, the first set of victims are children, followed by women. Then before you now meet men, men can always have their way of maybe escaping, running away from violence, running away from wars and all that. But the first set of people that are always victims are children and women. And that is why we want to do everything possible to make sure we protect our children and our women from the violence of the world. It's very, very important. So since children are the leaders of our future, it is very important to educate them and empower these children so that we can achieve this culture of peace and non-violence. It's very, very important. Now, a lot of things needs to be done for us to achieve this culture. We have a lot of work to do. And I tell you honestly, a lot of us have very serious work to do along that line. And that is why a day like this is very, very important. I will be mentioning some few points that will help us in knowing what we ought to do and taking up these responsibilities very seriously. Number one, the idea of education as a means of developing culture of peace and violence reinforces the statement that if we are the world, we have to begin with children. I'm so happy that the introductory message by our sister there, she mentioned Mahatma Gandhi and our, the good proponent of peace and nonviolence, also Martin Luther, Jr. These were the two key people that were promoting, nonviolence, and we are happy that with the work they've already done. So Mahatma Gandhi made that statement, and he said that if for any reason we are going to bring about peace in this world, then we have been with children. So I want to also say that that is where our starting point must be from. Every one of us must make up our minds to begin to teach our children how to imbibe the culture, the sensitivity, the sensibilities of peace within and around their systems. Is very, very important. It's a very, very important thing. And the next thing is that it takes great effort to achieve the culture of peace and nonviolence, because we can achieve this through collaborative efforts. And I want to say that several of us who do several work, we need to collaborate generally at the levels of the family, as colleagues, as classmates, government people, and what have you. The reason being that this issue of peace cannot be achieved by one person alone. So we all must collaborate and put in our efforts to make this to work. Now, let me quickly touch on some of the impediments. There are some hindrances to peace and nonviolence in our society, and some of them are as follows. Number one, the presence of poverty. Now, a lot of times when we do a critical analysis of violence in a system, in a society, it's been traced back to poverty. A lot of times, the moment people are poor in a system, you see them becoming useful tools for all manner of evil, all manner of terrible things happening in that society. And that is why it's been discovered that the first impediment or hindrance to peace or to non-violence in a society is poverty. And that is why we all have a lot of part to play in helping people get out of poverty, either as individuals, as societies, as NGOs, and as government. If we want to deal with these hindrances to violence, to non-violence rather, then we should be able to deal with issues of poverty, issues like, unemployment and what have you. Secondly, is the point of intolerance to other people. Intolerance to other people. It's been discovered that For us to have a society of peace, we must have tolerance to fellow, citizens of the world. We must tolerate other people's belief system, tolerate their, temperament, tolerate where they are coming from. No society and no system can work in an atmosphere of non-violence if we cannot tolerate. And that is why the essence of inclusivity and, having these systems where we can have multicultural society. We will always believe different things, come from different backgrounds and all that, but we should be able to tolerate ourselves and respect each other for who we are. This is very, very important. Now, the next point I'll look at is lack of adequate education on peace. We've discovered that in certain places and certain societies, we simply pay lip service to the education of peace. We pay people about peace. And that is why we are beginning to advocate that peace should be a teaching that should be inculcated into schools, right from primary school, secondary school, university level, and beyond. Peace is a body of knowledge that we should start teaching. I'm happy that several organizations and schools have already started inviting that, but we must talk more and more about it, the education of peace, starting from primary schools, secondary schools, and to higher institutions. The number 4 point is glamorizing violence on the media. One of the serious, and I mean serious, impediments to peace in our society is where we glamorize violence on the media, especially either on the social media and on the, television and what have you. You find out that several of our programs, a lot of times, are so much mixed with violence. And unconsciously, we are building a culture of violence into the psyche of children and of adults, because a greater percent of what people watch is made up of violence. And so, consciously and unconsciously, a lot of people who build up some of these programs, videos, films, and all that, are building violence into the psyche of young people and adults. And when the time comes, it plays out because it goes into the subconscious. And when there is any little trigger for it, you see violence coming out. And last but not the least is what I call inequality and injustice. Inequality and injustice. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to know that before we can have genuine peace and non-violence in systems, in organizations, countries, and the world at large, we must deal with inequality and injustice. Anywhere you see injustice and inequality at whatever level, whether economic inequality, political inequality, social inequality, and injustice, then we are breeding the atmosphere for violence. As long as some people will be feeling marginalized in some places, in society, in countries, and globally, at whatever level, and those issues are not handled, as long as there are issues of violence that have not been handled through committees of what we call reconciliation committees, then you find out that violence will keep breeding more and more violence. That's why I'm glad that in some countries where there have been very serious violence in the past, they have been able to set up, committees of reconciliation and healing and trauma healing and all that. And it has helped to a great extent. All right, let me quickly come as I begin to wind up to the aspect of practical ways to achieve peace and non-violence in our individual lives and in the world around. And this is very, very instructive and important for every one of us. And I've been able to outline about 10 key ways of educating ourselves and achieving peace and non-violence. Number 1, practical way to achieve peace and non-violence: calming your mind. Calming your mind, to calm one's mind. Now, that is a little bit of psychology. And that is why you can never treat the issue of peace and non-violence without the knowledge of psychology. Now, one of the key elements this helps people to do is that
Before any person will be able to bring about peace and non-violence in any society, that person should be able to calm his or her mind in any particular situation that comes his or her way. The first thing first is for people to be able to calm their minds. All right, number two, practical way is to simplify your life. Simplify your life. Now, it's been discovered that when our lives are made up of too much complex areas, then it becomes a problem. It becomes an issue for us to be able to bring about peace. The reason is this: the human mind and the human system has a way of bringing out complex things. The moment a person's life is made up of complex situations, if a person's life is too complex, then that person will also be complicated. Things around that person will be complicated. So the second key or practical way there is to simplify our lives. And then thirdly is educate yourself and teach others about injustice and inequality and about peace. The third point is educate yourself. In other words, every person who wants to bring about peace in a society should be able to educate himself or herself about peace. We should be able to gain more knowledge about peace. We should be able to educate ourselves and also help to educate others, just like what we are doing today at a global level. This program is about educating ourselves, improving our knowledge base of peace, which is very important. And then the number 4 point is orient your professional life towards peace. Orient your professional life towards peace. Now, this is very important because several of us belong to several, professions. And it's been found out that if you must give peace to the society, if you must be an advocate of peace and nonviolence, if you must be somebody who is able to give out peace and nonviolence to the society, then your immediate environment of your profession should be orientated towards peace. In other words, build peaceful atmospheres into your profession. Build things that create the atmosphere of peace within your profession, and then you'll be able to give out peace when the need arises. Number 5, transform interpersonal conflicts. Transform interpersonal conflicts. In other words, develop techniques to transform conflict relationships, to make opponents your allies and build trust. Now, what do we mean by this? It's been found that this is one of the principles in conflict management. It's been discovered that in every conflict situation, there are opportunities in that conflict situation to be transformed or to transform that situation into an atmosphere of peace. And that's why we teach that in an aspect of conflict which we call conflict transformation. What it simply means is that whenever there is a conflict, an existing conflict between person to person, city to city, nation to nation, and what have you, inherent within that conflict situation are key areas that can be used as a stepping stone to transform that conflict into, non-violent situation. These are some of the principles we teach under conflict management and conflict transformation. So we should be able to transform our conflict relationships and turn those who are opponents, as it were, to allies. Every person who is an enemy to somebody has some component within him or her that can be turned or turn that person into an ally. So rather than being enemies, we can actually turn people to friends, and it's very, very possible. All right. Point number 6
Thank
is
you,
transform
Dr. Chidi.
community spaces. Sorry? Okay. Can I go ahead? Okay.
Thank you. Because of our time,
Transform
we still have
community
other
spaces.
speakers.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So let me call it off there. Thank you for the time. God bless you. I don't know whether there will be questions, then I might be available to take 1 or 2 questions if there are. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Chidi Maduka. Thank you so much. Okay, personally, I feel Because of the time the time constraints, we might not be able to take everything. But if you can still forward your slides for us, I don't know if it's okay by you. I'm sure it will go a long way, a very, very long way. But thank you so much. And some of the insights I got is that's key is about internal violence and external. And I think everybody needs to understand what that is, because you cannot give what you don't have. So it actually starts from within. If you are not settled, you can't. If you don't have peace within you, you can't give it out. You can't give it out. Thank you so much for that wonderful lecture. Thank you so much. Okay. Right now I'm going to call on Barrister Ene. So Barrister Ene, I hope you are with us to introduce our chief speaker. Z Olukayode Zenbajo. Barrister Ene, are you with us? Are you in the house?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please, can you go ahead?
Thank you very much, Dr. Maduka, for that wonderful lecture. In fact, I wish, yes, I was just appreciating Dr. Maduka for that well-delivered research and delivered lecture.
Yes.
Our next speaker is Mr. Zacchaeus Olukayode Sebanjo. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, ma. We can hear you. Go ahead, ma.
Hello?
We can hear you, ma. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Zacchaeus Olukayode Sebanjo is a retired director, legal services, investigator, and protection of the National Human Rights Commission. He is now the executive director, Confluence of Rights. He's a renowned lawyer of over 40 years, I guess. You cannot talk about law reform in Nigeria without making mention of Mr. Olukayode Sebanjo Esquire in the history of Nigeria law reform. If I go through his CV, I'm very sure we will not live here. I met him during the training for development of the training manual of the Nigerian Police Force. He has trained several judges and magistrates. He's a member National Anti-Torture Committee for production of the Anti-HIV/AIDS Discrimination Bill, draft bill. He's also a member Federal Justice Sector Reform Coordinating Committee, a body of experts set up by the Nigeria government to reform the criminal justice system in Nigeria. I can go on and on because of time. That is just a short introduction of our next speaker, and I'm very sure he's someone that is passionate about the protection of and promotion of human rights and non-violence. I've had several calls where he has taken up cases of police torture. You understand? When he was in at the National Human Rights Commission, he worked around the clock to make sure that the commission works to meet the yearnings of human rights violations in Nigeria. I did a lot to promote all other draft provisions in the National Human Rights Commission that will empower them to protect human rights principles in Nigeria. So that is the person that will be speaking to us on this very important topic of non-violence today. So Mr. Zacchaeus Olukayode Sebanjo, Executive Director, Confluence of Rights, please, let's have you on board.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I have listened to the first speaker and I was thrilled about the angle at which he is tackling the subject. But I'm tackling the subject this morning from the point of view of prerequisites to peace. Prerequisite to peace. You cannot, a lot of people want to go to heaven without dying first. You cannot go to heaven without dying. Even when you have 99, if you have 9 A's in your WHOPE and you don't pass JAMB, you cannot enter university. Those are prerequisites. So I want to talk about that. First of all, I want to tackle fully this subject from the point of view of law that I know for the whole of my life now. So I want you to pardon me if I go that route. Now, lawyers go through definitions. What is violence? I want to share I have prepared something, but I will share with time. I'm being helped to share. You know, I'm a BBC. You know BBC, born before computer. Okay, I hope you, can you, somebody, I have an expert helping me here. So that, yeah, I want to share what I prepared. I hope you can see, can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes, we can.
Violence, violence is behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. I say violence derogates against the core fundamental right of every human being, that is, right, particularly right to life and right to dignity of the human person. Now, learned experts have tried to typify violence. They arrived at 8, and those 8 are also included in the law that we are all familiar with now, the WHOPE law, Violence Against Person Prohibition Act. All these 8 indices of violence are complete there. We talk about physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, cultural, verbal, and even financial violence. Can you go financial violence? Now, I have tried to categorize these 8 into this following, and I want to do number 1. I call domestic violence, and this is represented in gender-based violence, traditional practices, that is especially harmful traditional practices, particularly to our widows. Number 2 is societal violence, kidnapping, banditry, terrorism generally, human trafficking, and sex slavery. These are societal violence. Now, the third aspect is electoral violence. I say this is a sui generis violence it's a special type of violence which I consider sui generis, a type of its own. I see it. Perpetrators here include both state and non-state actors, either jointly or severally. We are all living witnesses to all that in our country. The fourth type of violence is official violence, perpetrated by law enforcement agents who wantonly violate the UN minimum standards for law enforcement. That is through extrajudicial killings and summary executions, enforced disappearances, torture, especially in the course of investigation, and forceful procurement of evidence, in the criminal absence of modern and international best practices of equipment-based investigation. The arrest to investigate rather than investigate to arrest in Nigeria. It is the standard practice that you investigate before you arrest. But in Nigeria, they arrest to investigate. Other acts of violation of citizens' rights to the dignity of the human person. The fifth type is war crimes. Criminal activities by parties engaged in warfare or quelling insurrection, much against the salient provisions of the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention has 4 treaties and 3 optional protocols. And these 2 treaties, the second 2 treaty was in 1949, after the Second World War. now updating the two other treaties that had existed before it, which is the ones in 1929. All these treaties, they established legal standards for humanitarian treatment in war situations. If these things if they are adhered to, we will be having the challenges we have. Look at the war in Ukraine. So much of violence, so much of violations of the Geneva Convention as we see it. And I say it is increasingly becoming clear. And that's why I put this one in red, because it's very, 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 very critical to world peace. It is increasingly becoming clear that the UN is failing the core reason it replaced the League of Nations in 1945, that is preservation of world peace. Mainly because of the systemic incongruences in the composition of its organs, especially the Security Council. I mean, you can't imagine, we have 5 permanent members of the Security Council with veto. That is China, France, Russia, the Russian Federation, United Kingdom, and the USA. Each of these 5 are permanent members and they have veto powers. Once they thumb down like this, nobody discusses any subject that in which they are involved. Once they thumb down, that is veto. When you thumb down like this, the veto power, nobody discusses anymore. Now, these 5 permanent, they exercise veto power. Now we have 10 non-permanent members elected by the General Assembly for 2-year terms. Africa, with 55 countries and a population of 1.5 billion, has no permanent seat, not to talk of veto in the UN. We don't have. Whereas France, of 66.4 million, and UK with 70 million, both are. Western Nigeria, let me say it. Well, I'm 72 years old now. Western Nigeria had television before France. Western Nigeria, we had television station before France. France is a permanent member of the UN. Nigeria is not. Now, that in itself does a whole lot of violence against the African people. When I talk about violence, what is our violence? That's an emotional violence against the African people. And there is no way, and that is why UN is failing. It has to do, when I get to recommendations, you will find what I mean there, what I tell the UN to do. Now I've come to recommendations of what we need to do, either as a people at the national level and as a committee of nations at the international level. One, don't forget, the thrust of my presentation is prerequisite to peace. Prerequisite to peace. The first Peter has spoken about how to achieve peace at personal. You see, there are certain things that when they don't happen, nothing happens. Number one, prerequisite to peace is to stem impunity. Everyone is equal before the law. That is what we know. That is what we learn. But is that what we have on ground?
No.
We have one law for the poor. In fact, my work, I was chairman of the Controller General of Prisons Committee on Law and Constitution for several years. I found out that the prison is an expression of poverty, the home of poverty. When you want to see poverty, go to the Nigeria. Only poor people go to prisons. In fact, some are there for even nothing. They've spent years, 10 years without trial. We have 70% of those who are in prison today ought not to be there. Whereas a whole lot of people, particularly exposed people, I told them at a meeting and they almost tore me to shreds. They are walking around, whereas they are the ones who be in prison, but they are not there. That's the first thing that we must do as a nation. We must turn impunity. Number two, the law must be made to take its course. The law, that's like the first one. We have the WHOPE Act of 2015. This WHOPE Act had done so much of comprehensive work to deal with interpersonal violence, particularly at the domestic level. No longer is a man allowed to throw away the property of his wife into the streets or to walk away from the family and fail to provide for the needs of the home. These are, but if this law is allowed to take its course, a lot of domestic issues in Nigeria will be resolved. And we no longer have vagabond children from terrible homes or terribly uncared for. Men in our community know how to procure children without knowing how to take care of them. A lot of them behave like butterflies, and they peck flowers all over the place and fail to provide for them. Second, we have the Anti-Torture Act of 2017. This is another comprehensive law that deals with torture. No longer is any policeman allowed to torture their victims, those under their detention orders. No longer. But if any evidence is procured through torture, we have what we call trial within trial in courts that will defeat that evidence. And the procurer of that evidence is liable into the crime of torture. The third aspect, the third law is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. I was part and parcel of the engineering of that act. One of the things that brought that act into life was the eternity it is taking to try politically exposed people. There are injunctions and several injunctions and appeals to Supreme Court over very trivial issues aimed at delaying trial. So we found out that, look, Nigeria is the only jurisdiction in the whole jurisdiction, in the whole of the Commonwealth with this kind of problem. Let's sit down and talk about that. We brought together all strata of legal practice, all. And this law was brought into life. We started around 2005. You can imagine, over a 10-year period, this law came up and was signed in 2015. But what do we have now? I don't let me go to the practicalities of the, but we need to, the law, even this law now, the mischief that we sought to cure in this law is not there. It is being defeated by the very lawyers, the senior lawyers that we met together to articulate it. The third is the Police Act. I was one of the consultants that drew up the Police Act. Myself and another consultant with 20 police lawyers. We wrote this act. And one of the things that was in our mind was to make police duties civil. We wanted the Nigeria police that is not the Nigeria police force. We want the Nigeria police service that is answerable to the Nigerian people, that is accountable to the Nigerian people. We are yet to get there. Maybe we'll get there one day. The same thing with the Nigeria Correctional Act. Like I told you, I was the chairman of the Committee on Law and Constitution of the Controller General Roundtable, and it's our committee that drafted this act way back, about 12, 13 years now. Well, we are happy that it is now law in 2020. We also have the Child Act that protects children against violence, against adults that misuse them. These are just a macrocosm of what we have in our legal system to prevent violence, to make violence non-existent, or to bring it to the barest minimum in our communities. The second recommendation is to unbundling of Nigerian police force. I've always said it, NA is aware about this, my position. My position is that Nigerian police is an octopus. It should be unbundled. Because that is one of the major reasons for violence in Nigeria. We have had protests against police brutalities. The NSAS protests are still very much in our psyche. The NSAS was about endless police brutality in Nigeria. I have been chairman of several tribunals all over the country that sat to consider before this NSAS. If our recommendations had been taken, NSAS would not have taken place. We even had a meeting in 2018 where we addressed most of the things that were engendered the NSAS violence. Nothing was done. Nothing. Now, I said, under the criminal justice administration, we have 4 legs there. We have the police arrests, they detain, they investigate, and prosecute. 4. The Attorney General and the lawyers in the chamber, they only prosecute. The judiciary only adjudicate. And the custodial authorities only imprison convicts. But police, they arrest, they detain, they investigate, and they prosecute. They are already in the arena. That's why even before they take anybody to court, they are already calling him a criminal. You're a criminal, shut up. I'm talking, you are talking. These are violence. These are violence. Absolute powers, they say, are corrupt absolutely. I have called for the unbundling of, let that be the units of governance that does investigation and another that does prosecution. One unit of governance should not arrest, should not detain, should not investigate, and should not prosecute. It breeds violence, apart from corruption. Number 4, civil and political authorities should allow the entire Nigerian police personnel perform its core civil security duties. 1, nobody knows the total number of police in Nigeria. I gave you an interview on AIT after the NSAS. One of the things I told AIT was that we have too much opaque. We have opaque administration in the police establishment. We don't know what is going on. Today, nobody knows the total number of police in Nigeria. We only average it to 400,000. Out of this 400,000, let me be quiet because time is going. Out of this 400,000, half of them are doing non-police work. Half. They are all in the Aso Rock, governors' homes, governors' offices, commissioners, local government, even their girlfriends, their wives, everybody, their children, they are police escorts. Even this notorious kidnapper, what is his name? This notorious also had police escort before he was discovered to be a kidnapper. What is his name now? I can't remember his name. You know. Evans. He had police escorts before he was discovered to be a kidnapper. Let police, out of the remaining 50%, 50% of that 50% are doing commercial work, guarding banks, rich Nigerians, all manners of non-police work. So only about 100,000 police officers are involved in core police work. That is why there is gross insecurity in Nigeria. That's why we have gross violence in Nigeria. And until this is addressed, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Number 5, I say civil and political authorities should stop the military from performing core civil security duties. The military is only to protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria. They are trained to kill. When you involve them in police work, they will kill. And that is why they have been killing. And there's nothing anybody can do about it until we stop. But how can we stop when we have only 100,000 police officers doing civil security work for 200 million people? And they are grossly inadequate. So that's why a lot of people blame police. I don't. Because I know the travails they are going through. They are overworked, they are overused, they are abused, they are misused. Just recently, one so-called professor mismanaged a police officer. We saw the video all over the place. Beating her up. What is that woman doing with the police officer? What's he doing with the police officer? The fifth one, develop effective and functional early warning signals, highlighting the triggers of domestic violence, societal and commercial violence, and communal violence, official violence, electoral violence, war, and war crimes. What do I mean by early warning signals? Early warning signals are things that deal with, highlight what triggers these things. Once we deal with the triggers, you already dealt with it at the formative level. It is said that cure is more expensive than prevention. Prevention is better and cheaper than cure. When we develop early warning signals, you prevent these things from happening. You prevent violence from happening. But when big problems are small problems unaddressed, let me repeat, big problems that we have in Nigeria today is because smaller ones have not been addressed at the nick of time. That's why we have them escalating at the level at which we have now. 7, strong and sustained advocacy and campaign against harmful, violent traditional practices directed especially at those people I call gatekeepers. Political gatekeepers, our political leaders, the governors, the legislature, the president, the National Assembly, all of that. Those are the political gatekeepers. Nigeria must begin a serious advocate, because when you stem violence at communal level, it won't get to escalate to the point at which we have it in Nigeria today. So we need massive, not apart from law. Law will not be able to achieve a lot if people are not. How many people will you send to jail? We need strong and sustained advocacy and campaign against these precursors of violence. One, to our political leaders, to our traditional leaders, traditional authorities, our religious authorities, as well as our social, social big men and women around us. At the moment, I am leading a team from the National Center for Women Development around the country, propagating and explaining the various laws against violence in Nigeria to our traditional communities, to our political community leaders, and to our religious. We've been to 2 states now. We've been to Gombe and we've been to Akwa Ibom State. Yeah, we have been to where we trained in Lagos. We did the training in Lagos. I did training for them in Lagos. Now we are still out of 36 states. We are just going to 2 states. So you can imagine we are still very few and far behind. At the international level, there must be fundamental reforms in the UN to make it much more democratic and therefore much more effective in securing and guaranteeing a peaceful and non-violent world. They are failing gradually. I watched the Security Council meeting yesterday, and I was just pitying the Secretary General. He was totally helpless. As we speak, Russia has annexed 4 regions of Ukraine in 2022 by force. And it is recruiting about 300,000. Although people are running away, 300,000 to attack Ukraine, and the whole world is watching helplessly because Russia is a nuclear power. Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council, and anytime anything is discussed, if by the time the decision will be reached, it will just come down. Once it thumbs down, it has vetoed it. Nobody takes any decision on it. How can we guarantee peace in this kind of world? How can you now tell Ukrainian people not to fight not to regain somebody? They have annexed Crimea in the first place. They have annexed 4 other regions. What the Russians do is to bring Russian people over the years since the 1920s. They've been invading Ukraine with a lot of Russia. They have occupied a lot of the section of Eastern Russia with their own people, Eastern Ukraine with the Russians. Taking somebody else's country per force in 2022, in spite of the UN. Because Africa has no say. Africa, as big as we are, we have nothing. We are just watching. It is between America and Europe, and Western Europe now, tackling Russia. And Russia is threatening fire and brimstone. Only God will prevent another world war in Nigeria, in the world as we speak. Only God can prevent it. Because at the rate at which Russia is going, and UN is powerless, completely powerless. All that the UN Secretary General was saying yesterday was to appeal. Please, this thing is not good. Don't do it. The man is going ahead. He has held a sham referendum in those places. He has taken decision and has annexed them, and he has covered them with nuclear power. What do? The UN must, let me repeat, there must be fundamental reforms in the UN to make it much more democratic and therefore more effective in securing and guaranteeing a peaceful and non-violent world. In conclusion, I firmly believe our world can be a lot safer, more secure, and far more peaceful if all authorities, indeed, if everyone genuinely desires to be the enviable change he or she advocates. Violence spares no one, and human rights are foreign to no culture. Thank you for listening.
Wow, that was awesome. Wow, that was awesome. Give me a chair. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Wow, so much. Prerequisites for peace.
Yes.
That means the things we must all put together before we start talking about internal peace, external peace, peace in our community. There must be things we must put together for that to work, for that peace to now be effective in our lives, for we to enjoy the real peace. All these things must be put together. You mentioned something that made me really laugh. He said that the prisons Nigerian prisons are for the poor.
Yes, it's the face of poverty.
Oh my, it's heart-wrenching. It's not funny, really. You know, laughing is not that I'm laughing that, you know, it's really not funny. It's really not funny. My pastor said something today that is very profound. He said he met somebody that the guy is so skilled with, as in hand skills, art skills, that he used to do this styling and some other things. And he started asking him, where did you get all this knowledge from? Because your ways are not the ones that, as in the common ones that we are used to. The guy laughed and told him, I learned it in the European prison.
I was in Denmark and I saw their prisons. I was in Denmark in 2001. We visited their prisons, their correctional centers. They are like 5-star hotels.
Okay.
They are like 5-star hotels. Everything is there. Everything. In fact, before you see them, you have to press a button. If they don't want to see you, they won't open the door. You have to press the bell. It is when it opens, and there's one person to one room.
Wow.
Yes, one person to one room.
it's, I don't know, but anyway, we are going somewhere. That's the essence of lectures like this.
Yeah.
That's the essence of our coming together, as one, to see how we can turn things around in our different, communities, our nations, our countries. That's why we are here. Thank you so much. I don't know. In short, you've loaded my head. I was just screen grabbing your your slide. In short, I need to own it. I need to own it. Thank you so much. So much
Thank
value.
you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you.
And we need to move in fast. So we have another guest speaker coming up by name Barrister Florence Adewale. I don't know, Barrister Florence, are you in the house? Are you in the building? Yes.
Vero, yes, I am.
Okay, awesome. Please, the floor is all yours. And please start with introduction. Tell us a bit about yourself, then you can fly on.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And if
Good
it's morning,
afternoon.
good morning. If it's evening, good evening. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I can see beautiful faces. The face you are seeing on the screen is the same thing as the one you'll be seeing on live. So pardon me for not on my video. Yeah,
No
I'm
problem.
Barrister Florence. I don't call it barrister. I call it Florence Adewale Esquire, a human rights advocate, a founder of an NGO named Flourish Initiative Empowerment and Advocacy for Less Privileged. And I'm also a project director for Atlanta Lagos Sister City in Lagos. And I work with British Council as a consultant. And well, before I go ahead to make my speech, I would like to say one or two things concerning the last speaker. Chief, you have really said a lot. And what you said about the prison, yeah, you're right. Because a few days ago, I visited the prison with the legal clinic with some CSOs, and you got it right that the prison is for the poor men. After doing my interview with the inmates, I realized what you have said, that the poor lives in the prison. We don't call them prison. They call it correctional center. I don't want to just go into what I experienced, but I think we all know what is really happening and what we thought should come out from it. Yes, quickly. The topic, securing a culture of peace, tolerance, understanding, and non-violence. I'm not BBC, so I'm not I'm not good in history, just like Chief. And I'm not a philosopher, just like Dr. CD, but I think I'm a teacher. So I'll pick it one after the other, just be patient with me. So what is culture of peace? Let's look at the UN definition of culture of peace. It said, it is a set of values, attitudes, modes of behavior, and way of life that reject violence and prevent conflicts by tackling their root causes to solve problems through dialogue and negotiation among individual group and nation. Yes, I remember a client of, not only one client, several clients. They do tell me, Florence, you don't go to court, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I go to court. And anytime they realize that lawyers don't go to court, they were taught they don't know what they are doing. They think lawyers that do go to court are vibrant lawyer. This one go to court with heavy books and all that. I said, I'm a mediator, I'm an arbitrator, because going to court, you can't go to court and come back and be laughing. It's not possible. Two parties that go to court that go to court can never laugh at the end of the day. But when you arbitrate, you mediate, at the end of the day, they'll shake hands and that is all. They can continue their business relationship. So in terms of that is where when there is problem, we are trying to create peace. And how can you create peace? By dialoguing, by negotiating. That is it. Now, what do we now understand? I asked my question. Can there be an understanding without tolerance? Or can there be tolerance without understanding? Which one comes first? I will explain that later. Another question is, what is tolerance? Tolerance is an opinion or behavior that one dislike. Tolerance cannot come in when you did not dislike something. It's not possible. If I got married to Chief, I can't tolerate him if I did not dislike anything in his attitude. There is a dislike of one attitude of his, but how can I create peace from that attitude? Is for me to tolerate him. Once I tolerate that attitude, then I will have the time to understand why he's acting that way. So tolerance comes in when the understanding comes in when there is tolerance. And when there's no dislike or disagreement, or there can be tolerance. So when there is disagreement, you have to tolerate one another before there can be peace. We go ahead by saying, what is culture of peace? And what is the difference between culture of peace and violence? But what is violence first? We know we have this, I think we have talked about violence. Violence is just the opposite of peace. When there's no peace, there's wala, there's violence, there's chaos, there's problem. Now, culture of peace, we talk about dialogue to resolve problems. That is where the culture of peace generated from. In a community where there is no dialogue, there can't be peace. There will just be there will be problem, there will be fight here and there. Now, and there will be use of force. Culture of violence is just like in a tabular form. Culture of peace is dialogue to resolve conflict. Culture of violence is the use of force. When there's use of force, like police officers, hey, go there, you sit down here. Force. They use force unreasonably. And there, but where there is a kind of dispute resolution in terms of dialoguing, there'll be peace. Peace will come. What is we tolerate each other? Sorry, excuse me. And number two is tolerance and understanding. But for culture of violence, we have enemies. When there is enemies, that is when violence comes in. How can we create enemies? When that is the same thing as causes of violence. That is causing. Once we disrespect each other, violence comes in. Once we hate each other, violence comes in. Once there is no fairness, violence comes in. When we dispute each other, violence comes in. Intolerance, violence comes in. Anything negative is what brings violence. Between husband and wife, where there's no tolerance, chaos comes in. I don't want to starting cases or something, but would like to have your opinion on the issue, the marital issue. Now, when we're talking about authoritarian, violence comes in a dictatorship environment. The leader being an authoritarian, violence comes in. But under democracy, perfect democracy, or will I semi-perfect democracy, there is peace. I choose what I want to say. You choose what I'm free to say whatever I want to say. in terms of exploitation of people, yes, that's another cause of violence. That is one of the culture of violence. Exploit people. What you exploit me, you exploit me. End of the day, when I get to know about it, I go angry, and problem comes. Violence comes. Chaos comes. When there is human rights, this is my right, this is your right. Both of us know our rights. There can't be problem. There will be peace. And what about exploitation of nature? For instance, our oil. We always take advantage of it. Oh, Nigeria have crude oil. We have oil. We started making use of the oil. Blah, blah, here and there. At the end of the day, we never develop sustainable development. We don't do that. That is another problem. When we exploit like that Niger Delta, the government go there. Why are they fighting? Because we always when I say we are talking about the government. The government makes extract oil from there, crude oil, yeah, every time, and then at the end of the day, you're not doing anything there. That alone, we are not looking at the sustainability of the natural resources. We are just taking. At the end of the day, there will be problem. There will be chaos. There will be fights. And another one is this cultural aspect of male dominant. Is the man, even from the child. MTN. I remember the MTN advert. Mama is a boy, yo. Everybody was dancing. How about is a girl? Why didn't they use the word is a girl? Oh, discrimination. When there is discrimination, problem starts. Is a man. Oh, treat him like a king. He's the man of the house. Yeah. You go to the kitchen, where even if you become a PhD holder, your place still lies in the kitchen. That alone can cause strife between the brother and sister. Male domination. But in under culture of peace, we look at equality between the genders. What a man can do, a woman can do better. But that is not what we are talking about here. We are talking about equality between genders. I'm not saying that we will not respect our husbands. I'm not saying that we will not respect our authority who are males, but we are talking about equality. When there is equality, presidential aspirants, women come in, men come in, no problem. But not saying that post, that general manager post is for male, Problem will start. Because the woman will be feeling, why are you discriminating me? So that is another cause of cultural violence. Now, but the question now is, how can we promote this violence? Violence, they have defined violence. They have said there are different types of violence. We have the domestic violence, emotional violence, physical violence, even spiritual violence, all. There are a lot of different kinds of violence. Intra violence, there are different ones. But how can we promote the culture of peace, the culture of non-violence? That is by strengthening peace through education, through advocacy, through media. Yes, I remember when she was talking about the problem of Nigerian police, saying that he's even suggesting that there should be a kind of unbundling of the Nigerian police force. Yes, it's a good suggestion. But do you know that the police force, most of them, they lack the wisdom. They are ignorant of the law. Last year, October 2021 to January 2022, I facilitated and I lectured over 28 divisions of police divisions in police force, Mushin, Ilupeju, Itire, Jesha, Oshodi, Keja, blah, blah, blah. But I was surprised when I was lecturing them on the ACJL 2021, which was amended. I was surprised when they are telling, some cannot, they don't know the definition of arrest. Arrest in lieu, they don't know the meaning. Even when I was telling them, I was the one, I'm not a police officer, but I was the one teaching them how to arrest. The right to search, how to search. All this, now you can imagine a police officer who is handling a gun. Some don't even know how to shoot. It was there I realized that some who has been in service for past 20 years have never used a gun before. Some said it was only once they used gun when they were in the college. It is the same people that will be handling gun. I was, ever since then, anytime I see a police officer with gun, even if I'm on my right, I will just calm down. I'll calm my nerves, just because I learned that most of them don't know how to make use of gun. And at the end of the day, we'll be talking about happy trigger, stray bullets. So I think when we are talking about, I mentioned something, I said, how can we promote peace? Through education. It was after after I enlightened them on the rules, because there are like nine laws under the LCJL concerning the police officers. After educating them, they were happy. They said, "Oh, how I wish." Some said, "How I wish I could." It was someone who said, "How I wish we could be having this kind of training." So that is one of the problems in Nigerian force, though. And I remember when Mr. Dr. Chidi said poverty is one of the, I think, the foremost causes of violence. Yes, when he was talking about it, I was just thinking, why is it poverty? Yeah, how about the rich also commit violence? Some are violent, yes. So why poverty? Why poor people? Well, we later realized that frustration begets anger. Then anger begets loss of emotional control. And when lost emotional control, what happens? Violence comes in. Violence comes in. So I think I don't have much to say, because the two speakers, my seniors, have said it all. But I will say that once we respect human rights, once we have freedom of speech, once we were educated to know our rights, and we educate others to know their rights, things will be better. But I will leave you with these words, and let's ponder on it. If women are solely bond with one another, the society will be dull and lack in adventure. Yes, anytime you are watching, I love watching thriller movies, action movies, that they'll be shooting. I love it. When you sit down and you watch that kind of film, and the action begins, you love the moves. There's no dull moment, because there's violence. But when you are watching a film that is so boring, say this one is just episodic and all that. This one is too dull. So are we now saying that we can't have a society? We can't have a society, a free, violent society, a total peace society. And if there is peace all through, if everyone is bonded together, don't you think that the society will be so dull, and people will not know, there won't be creativity, that word really, there won't be any activity, no creativeness, nothing will happen. But once there is any violence, everybody will be looking, oh, this is my enemy. That was where we got to know about bomb, gun, cutlasses, here and there. Even the measures and all that. That there's advantage and disadvantage. I'm not supporting violence, but I'm looking at the reality of life. The positive of it is a bit, it's low, but the benefit of peace is greater. The last word I will leave you with is, if woman decides to claim individual spaces, societies would be full of action and violent action. Thank you so much. I remain Florence Adewale, Esquire. Hello.
Hello, Florence. Thank you very much for. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you.
Am I sure everybody heard all what I've said?
I heard you loud and clear.
Okay, I said that I remain Florence Adewale, Esquire. I rounded up.
What is Francisca, are you there? Ambassador James, are you there? Hello?
Mr. James is not here.
Okay. Francisca, are you there?
She is on, but muted.
Okay. I'm coming, let me try. Francisca, are you there? Hello, Francisca.
She's not here. I think we can just throw it up for question because of our time. Yes.
Any question? Yes. Okay. I'm giving this session to for people that have questions, comments. Ambassador Andrew, can we have your comments? Hello? Ambassador Andrew. Ambassador Andrew, can we have your comments or intervention?
Oh, greetings. Hello. I apologize. I was hosting a separate event. I apologize for my delay. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so much. I've just been overjoyed. I've been able to listen in while I've been conducting another meeting, but I wanted to just give my express appreciation for all the speakers, because the topic that we're dealing with here, it has life and death consequences, not just for ourselves and not just for our children, but also perhaps for our planet. Because until and unless we can address these issues from a perspective of maturity, understanding, and compassion, then we are in fact at risk of being the very perpetrators of the solutions that we're trying ourselves to make sure happen. In the first place, I want to thank Ambassador Dr. James Mercy Obentumibi. We've been working together in this effort to through the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity, together since I was introduced to him over 2 years ago. I've been very much pleased and excited to have him come to me when there's an opportunity for us to provide a global platform for these conversations. As you know, we are now live streaming this to Facebook, and I have posted it on several different groups. But I have to ask each of you to become not just consumers of content, but consider yourselves as producers of content. There are people that you know that need to hear what we're saying here. So on the WHOPE Facebook page, I posted this event today. What I'm asking each of you to do is take the time to go there and to share it among all of your networks. The only way we can begin to have, I think, an opportunity to create more nonviolence is to work just as hard for peace as those people who are working towards destruction. On this United Nations International Day of Nonviolence, I ask you to make it not a day, but make this an entire year of your commitment on a daily basis. Do what you can to not just embody nonviolence, but to be the ones to demonstrate to our children that this is the future that they themselves must follow. At the end of the day, our children will not listen to what we say. They'll only pay attention to what we do. So I'm encouraging each of you to understand that it is our human responsibility. Human rights, number 29, is responsibility. So as we're celebrating the United Nations, we need to revisit just what our human rights are. There is not one or two or three, there are 30 human rights. And until and unless we are able to empower our children with their understanding of their human right, no matter where they are on earth, then we will be doing less than we can to create a universal government of peace on earth. So I encourage each of you to familiarize yourself with the tools and resources that are freely available. You can go to youthforhumanrights.org and find all of the 30 human rights. You can find one of them that relates to what you're doing. We don't have a problem of us not doing what is, I think, very important towards working towards peace on earth. I think what we're doing is not giving enough appreciation of the work that we're doing and how important it is to let the rest of the world know. There are only 5 corporations that own 95% of the world's media. It is their task to provide as much, I guess you'd call it divisive, negative, warmongering as they possibly can, because unfortunately, I live in the United States. The United States, throughout its history, has only less than 5 years when it has not been involved with war in one way or another. Right now, the United States has, unfortunately, military representation throughout the world, and particularly throughout Africa and AFRICON. We're the largest arms dealers in the world. So it's impossible to believe that this country will be the one to lead us towards peace if the special interests' only benefit is to create more war. So in Nigeria, which itself is soon approaching its election, and we have multiple elections that have already happened throughout Africa, particularly most recently, I believe, in Kenya, where during the United Nations recent secretariat, the president of Kenya asked us to not think about building back better, but building back better from the bottom up. And as our earlier speaker says, the bottom up has to start with us individually. We have to work towards peace within our own souls in order for us to have that impact through our family, our community, and our world. So I want to thank everyone here for being here to be the change that we want to see. And I would just encourage each of you to encourage each of us to make this commitment for a year-round dedication on this focus for nonviolence. Because until we have peace on earth, we will never achieve any of the Sustainable Development Goals. SDG number 16 addresses peace, but all of them have implications and impact on what we do here today. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I turn it back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, and for always giving us a platform. You actually, took the words out of my mouth, because I've been thinking deep, throughout today's discussion and yesterday's meeting. I don't know. How can we get this knowledge out to more people? Like even this Zoom meeting that we are having, we need to do what we are hearing. That's the only way we can language, and they are speaking a different language. At the end of the day, no peace, nothing good comes out of it. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Barrister Ene. Okay, we still have another guest speaker, but I don't know if she's around. Thank you. Ambassador Christina, I don't know if she's, I don't know. Or if she has a representative, I do not know. I'm not sure she's here on board. I'm not sure she's on board. I'm not sure she's on this call.
No,
okay,
I don't see her in the no,
yes, I don't see her. Okay, I don't know if there's another person that wants to say one or two things, because we need to bring this wonderful meeting to a close. And just to portray what Ambassador Andrew said, I think we need to really come out with a strategy where everybody gets to, I don't know, even if it means creating a target. I don't know how it's going to work, Ambassador Andrew, but I don't know, maybe we'll talk about it and see how we can really make more people hear this. If it means, not just like today, what we heard today is what I heard, me personally, it's heavy for my ears. You can imagine that our police force do not even know how to shoot. They were not trained, with guns. They don't know how to shoot. They don't know how to handle it. This one is a big one. Oh, this is a big one. So knowledge is power. We need to find a way, even if it means going, maybe having these trainings again, not just on the days that UN stipulated for us to create awareness for such trainings, but other days we can still bring this up, go live on Instagram, go live on Facebook. It can be a question and answer kind of stuff. I don't know, Barrister Ene, Barrister Andrew, I don't know. We need to come up with a strategy to help this go, to help more people. Dr. Luke Kayode, I don't know, everybody, we need to unmute and speak up. How can we drive this? How can we drive this knowledge for people to get involved? Please, let's unmute our mics and talk. This is the time for everybody to talk, because we're almost rounding up.
Thank you, Chaplain Francisca. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you for everyone that has participated in this. And most importantly, I want to say well done to Barrister Florence, at least for her to be able to come out bold to talk after Chief Olukayode has spoken. It's not easy for her to compose herself, because when Chief Olukayode has said it all, So I was even praying for her to be able to say something that will be reasonable, but I appreciate her for coming on board, at least to put things together and to be able to compose herself. Because after Chief Olukayode dropped the mic, let me put it that way, everywhere was moody. Think so it's as vast as that. It was an eye opener to what non-violence is all about. He made mention of prerequisites and things that we have to talk about before we talk about non-violence. It has been a wonderful one. And Chima, we can't have somebody like that and you're expecting us to start talking here. So it's not about talking on social media. It's about action we have to take. So that will take us to go back home to plan well on how we go about this. And thank God we have baristas in the house. We have Chief Olukayode in the house. If it will take us to his office and show him this what we want to do, other vows, ideas he has and how to go about it, he can put more light on that. So it's not about talking, we need action. We need action. It's not all about this webinar. It's not about the United Nations Day for Non-Violence. So it's about action. And it talk about advocacy, It made mention of things he has personally done, the ones he has spearheaded, the ones they have done together, even before it came to be enacted into law 2020. He said about all those things, the prison stuff that they have done, meaning that there are still work on the ground himself that he has done and others that have put together that are yet to be implemented or enacted into law or yet to be known to the general public. I still have much there. I know he just says something because of the time given. You just have to put some things together, at least for us to see something. And I would like to tell Barrister Ene, please, the presentation that Chief Olukayode made, we would like to have that to at least a page for the magazine we are going to publish, World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity. So it will help to project what we have just done today. So we still have to call a meeting. We still have to visit Chief in the office. So
you have to come. You have to come to America to see me now.
Yeah, we are coming.
Yeah,
we are on our way coming. We are on our way coming. That's what I'm saying.
You guys, you younger guys are frustrating our efforts.
How, sir?
You are frustrating our efforts. Look, I've been at this business.
Is it because we are not BBC?
Because
sir,
I've been at
is
this.
It because we are not BBC?
No, not that. BBC means I'm not computer savvy.
Gone before computer.
Computer, yes, I'm not computer, and I need help. Somebody was at my right hand here doing all the buttons for me. But what am I saying? I'm telling you that look,
you see that we are helping.
The challenges of Nigeria is not because we don't have the laws. We have a plethora of laws. It is the workability of these laws and the political will to get them workable. That is the issue. Only God knows how much of midnight candles people like us are burnt to get things right. Let me take just two of the laws, WHOPE and the ACJA. Sorry, are you a lawyer?
You are with you, sir.
Yeah, we are here, sir.
Okay. ACJA and the WHOPE. ACJA, we called the head of MBA, judges at all levels at the High Appeal and Supreme Courts. The first trial of this act was the case of Saraki at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The first trial of the law of the SJ. Now, the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Wole Olanipekun, represented Saraki at that trial. After the case has begun. Wale, I'm telling you, I'm mentioning names now, raised the presidential objection about the jurisdiction of the court and asked the court to suspend hearing until he hears the application, the objection against the decision of the court. And the court said no, that under ACJA, you have to front load all your objections, and I will consider them after the trial. Well, I was there when we were crafting all this, and the reason is that we don't want trials to go on forever. There is always an end to litigation. But in Nigeria, particularly for politically exposed persons and rich people, there are thousands and thousands of objections that they will be front-loading, they will bring into court to frustrate the trial. We have discovered that those who have been charged for corruption since 2003, the trials are still on in 2020. It's only jurisdiction in the Commonwealth that has that problem. So we now said, look, let us stem this. And what we have done under the ACJ was to say, look, if whatever objections you have, front load them at the beginning of the trial. The trial will go on to conclusion. After the conclusion, either right or left, your objections should not be considered. If it vitiates the decision, well and good. If it not, the man goes to jail. But Wale now raised the issue and said the judge should stop trial. The judge said, no, I'm not stopping trial because the ACJA said I should not stop. He went to Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal also agreed with the trial judge that no, the ACJA permits him to go on until the end of the trial. Wale went to Supreme Court. To my surprise, the Supreme Court decided that the judge must stop hearing the case. In fact, they abused the judge, said he was exhibiting judicial rascality. I couldn't sleep for 1 week because this is a total negation of all that we have burnt all midnight candles for. And today, Saraki is all over the place telling the world that he has never been convicted of anything, which is true. So what are we talking about? So someone like us, I know the only area I know in my life is law. And this area of law that we have worked hard to improve, to reform, people are frustrating them. Why must I go crazy? And I just started one. They make someone like us go crazy. I don't want to go nuts because of Nigeria.
Don't go nuts.
You know. So those are the issues. Those are the issues. I just started one. Look at the Police Act. The draft of that bill was Nigeria Police Service. We wanted a Nigeria Police Service, not Nigeria Police Force. The colonialists created a force that was forcing Nigeria right, left, and center. So we want like the Immigration Service, like the Customs Service, which are civil paramilitary organizations, Immigration Service. We want a Nigerian Police Service. But at the level of drafting, it was removed and they replaced force. Yeah. Because somebody wants to be forceful. And all the silent provisions, some of the very many silent provisions that we had in that draft were removed. Although there are still some revolution, people are singing about the act. Me, I'm not singing about it because I know what we put there and what is out. I'm not singing about it. But a kind of revolutionary provisions there that people are very happy about. But that is not all that law that the draft encompassed. It was going to transform Nigerian police into a civilian force, a civil security outfit that will be accountable to Nigerians. I've been looking for, you can have the problem, you can go to YouTube and search for Bengaruleba's program on what do we call it? They call it Jigsaw. Jigsaw program. I gave an 1-hour interview after the inside program. And I ran through all the challenges of the police, all through. I divided it into two, horizontal challenges and vertical challenges. The horizontal one are the ones external to them. The vertical ones are the ones internal to them. One of which is that we don't know the number of policemen in Nigeria today. Nobody, not even the IG. And it is because of corruption. In these days of IT, we don't know the exact number. We don't know. I challenge anybody. These are issues that we need to deal with as a people.
Hello?
We are talking about violence. We are talking about peace.
That means people are no longer should not comment again. His comment is, and that is all.
Okay.
Thank
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I've rounded up my contribution. I just say you people are wondering when I was telling you I'm frustrated, and you are saying why am I frustrated? A lot of frustrating things are happening around us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chaplain James, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Maybe you should unmute, because sometimes you are muted without your knowing.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Can you all hear me?
Did you hear me? Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said?
We can hear you, sir. Thank you for your speech.
I heard that.
We did.
My comments.
Loud and
my
clear.
comments.
Yes.
My
Yes,
comments.
we heard you loud and clear.
Okay.
Yeah,
then.
your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I know it's obvious we are having bad leaders and good people, but I know Nigeria is going somewhere. We are going somewhere. One day we will look back and all these things will be history. I believe it with so much of my heart. We'll look back and all these things will be history. All these things will be history. People are coming up, people are talking, people like you, coming up to, okay, this is what we should have. There was a time when people could not even come up to say anything in this country. You speak, they gun you down. You can't even speak. Now people are talking. Things are coming up. We'll get there. We'll get there. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your more contributions. I don't know any other contributions from any angle from our barristers. And also we need to take a snapshot too. I've not done that. Please, can we all have our cameras on? Can we all have our cameras on so that please, can we all have our cameras on? Barrister Annie, I can't find you anymore. Andrew, are you there? Virginia Pias, any word from you to us? And Prince, please, can we have more comments from everyone because we need to round up this meeting. Can we have any comment, any contribution from Falsat Bakare? I see you here and your comments to Dr. Yogesh Rao, Okafor Luchi Ihegazie, Prince General Dr. Mohammed. Please, any other comments or contributions? Or else we need to call it a day. And your cameras are still not on. I need to snap. I need to get them. Oh. Mapia has anything for us today? Can you kindly unmute and say what? Yes,
Have you snapped the camera? Have you snapped the pictures?
Yes, I have snapped. I have.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
I have.
So these things are just hot in one's head. It didn't take me. It took me only last night to put down what I wrote down, because they are things that I am really very angry about. You know, we talk about so much about peace, and yet we are preparing for war.
It is well.
You know.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Okay, this is a thank you note from me and to everyone that made themselves available, took out, time out of their busy schedule to make sure that they are here today. And I'm sure that with what we've learned today, we're not going to keep this knowledge to ourselves, but we're going to try and make sure that this knowledge, gets onto people that also need to hear this, and so that action can, we can start taking action towards a better tomorrow. Thank you all. Thank you all for making time available. Thank you, Barrister Ene. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Olukayode, thank you
very much. Thank you,
everybody. Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you for always giving me an opportunity.
What the time about there now?
Yes.
All the time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Barrister Florence. Thank you so much. Please, everyone, have a nice evening.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.